Welcome back to the Youngstown Lifestyle Podcast, where we learn more about the community and opportunities in the Youngstown, Ohio area. This is your host, Scott Fain, and today we spent some quality time with Adam Lee, Program Director at Youngstown Cityscape, a local nonprofit dedicated to developing and revitalizing the downtown Youngstown area. It was a great conversation. I look forward to having more talks with him. But for now, let's start the show. Good morning, Adam. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day in Youngstown, and just enjoying some coffee on the porch.
You came into our sphere through Matthew. He's out doing landscaping and meeting different people around town and everything like that. And through like Flying High, we did a podcast with Parker Maynard and a few other folks there, and just about some of the work and stuff that you guys have, all of you have been doing to improve Youngstown. And we connected with you. You're with Youngstown Cityscape, and I want to start just by having you tell me a little bit about what they do, because if you read the website, it says that it's a community development organization dedicated to the revitalization of greater downtown Youngstown. But I want to know from you exactly, what is it that you guys do specifically to help improve Youngstown?
Sure. So my boss, Sharon Letson, she started the organization 22 years ago with their idea of streetscaping and doing some flower plantings and beautifying, just to kind of get a better image of the city. And, you know, when people take care of a space and it's more beautiful, they're more or less to appreciate the area, litter less, have a better morale and all that. And so it really started, with that. And, struggled with a lot of different problems over the years because of corruption after the fall of steel and all this. And so it really lagged behind. And we had a lot of, divestment and population moving out to the suburbs and creating a lot of donut hole sort of issues similar to Detroit, with aging infrastructure without the population to support it and all this kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of things that need to be addressed from that perspective. And we've got a lot of beautiful historic buildings, and, some of the things they've worked on is, policy initiatives like pushing the city to save different structures. And, from historic preservation perspective, for instance, we have the DoubleTree Hotel downtown now, which is a pretty big deal, and it's $33 million got put into a building that was originally built in 1907, 12 stories tall. It's gorgeous, and it's now one of the crown jewels of downtown, but it almost got knocked down. And there was a lot of incentive for people to build parking lots and just kind of knock down structures and all this thing. And, a lot of shenanigans to push that. For instance, the owner of the building pulled all the windows out in order to get it condemned, essentially, in an expressed fashion. And my boss helped to stop that from happening and essentially save the building. And so, I'm sorry?
I said that's really fortunate. That's one of the things that I noticed when I was going through downtown recently, is that there's a number of really beautiful buildings down there,
Yes.
I think any person who's looking to do some kind of filming and stuff like that needs to go to Youngstown, because there's so many great buildings. I noticed 2 places near the library that I thought would be excellent for some kind of, movie promotion or something like that,
Sure. And there is a bit of that happening. Absolutely. So yeah, I tell people all the time, go in the county courthouse. It looks like it belongs in D.C. It was built 100 and some years ago, and at the time it was like a $2 million project. It's all marble. There's a big dome. The whole roof is painted in the dome. It's a gorgeous building. And so, we have a lot of legacy infrastructure here, and unfortunately a lot of it has come down, even downtown. The Historical Society tried to save the Paramount Theater. They raised $3 million to save the facade and use it for movies and offices and stuff. And then they were tearing down the back side of it where the seating and stage and all that was. And it just destabilized the too much. It was going to cost another $1 million to save it. Had it happened today, it might have been a different thing, but this was 10 years ago, and there was just less money and effort and vision amongst the population and the city and what have you. But there is a sort of turnaround happening. There's still a lot of problems with the school district, and especially, and then like the crime issue is significantly better. The city is being more taken care of. There's more policy around enforcing code violations and what have you. So like we are moving in a good direction.
There's more energy.
Yeah.
There's more energy, more positive people coming to the front, more passionate people coming to the front. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you. Now, as far as Youngstown Cityscape, what's your background? How did you get started with them?
So it's funny because it's just more of from like amateur citizen planning perspective and just being interested in social justice and community and historic preservation. And I lived on the north side for 6 years now, and I was living on a street that was pretty busy unnecessarily, and I kind of started looking at the broader picture of, you know, what's possible in this neighborhood, and it's the most historic, you know, neighborhood outside of downtown, because that's where all the steel executives lived, and so there's a lot of beautiful homes, there's a lot of institutions, there's 2 historic districts, 2 parks, and every zone in the city, so there's possible for building and commerce and all this. So it has a lot of potential to be a complete neighborhood again, and it could be its own sort of walkable, like isolated section of the city that would be self-supporting if it were developed properly. And so like from a sustainability and circular economy and regenerative sort of thought process of redevelopment, that kind of is what ended up pushing me in this direction. And I was talking to different people about this, and then someone that was filling my position before moved to a CDC in Cleveland, and then the position was open, and so I kind of been filling that at the moment, and just started in May, so still kind of learning.
Mm-hmm. So, but that's not your original background.
Oh,
right?
yeah. So, yes, I was in hospitality in waiting tables and in different finer dining restaurants, so I'm used to talking to a lot of people in the community, but I also have done pop-up dinners, all farm-to-table sort of style type stuff, and private house parties and like going to different farms. And then I also worked for a nonprofit called Goodness Grows that was tied to a faith community as well, and they did some focus on sustainable growing practices and teaching, and they actually Flying High was combined with them for a little bit as far as their programming. So it's kind of come a little bit full circle with them being on the north side and my being friends with Parker and all this. So that's kind of
I think that's where a lot of where Matt and I connect on with you guys is through the food and just through. That's something I didn't realize I would like it as much as I was as a younger man. I mean, I'm not too old now, but it's one of those things where I think you get a little bit more patient. You have a little more patience for growing things. You know, I had a garden and things like that. So you have the patience to understand that you're planting a seed that you want to cultivate and grow into something larger. And that's what you guys are doing with the organizations and doing with the community stuff that you're doing. But tell me a little bit about the walkability project. What's that?
So there is a couple different organizations that are working together to put up, at least this year, temporary signage to tell people about different landmarks, distances in version of time, average time to walk there, and to provide more signage to encourage people to park their car and, you know, walk up to the museum, or like if they're in downtown at the hotel especially. And I've always told people when I'm waiting on them, oh, you know, you're out of town, you got to come go to the Butler, and it's 5 minutes up the hill. And for me, my father's an exercise physiologist, and I've always been around sort of like healthy lifestyle type stuff, and I love to cycle as well, and I've been starting running a little bit with my wife. And so I think that, you know, people in general are wanting to have more options besides car transportation. And as the city is being re-urbanized as far as the population, it's important to sort of like look at these sort of initiatives for development and as far as the trend of, you know, and then like just pushing people to do that for healthy purposes as well and kind of making it more accessible. So on the 9th, we're going to be doing, putting up the signs. There's going to be 60 signs, mostly around downtown, University, North Side. And on the 10th, there's a sort of gallery opening for the show for where sidewalks end. And so part of that also is we've been doing walk audits to like assess sidewalks and how much damage there is to the infrastructure, you know, to make it more accessible for the citizenry.
The idea, generally speaking, is great. I love the idea of getting more people to walk, and especially that's how I spent most of my time riding bikes when I was down in Youngstown. Riding bikes, and it is a city that lends itself to bike riding, you know, because it's not so congested. There's more, you know, you can ride it more safely. At least I did. And just like I said, there's lots of beautiful architecture around and things like that. Mm-hmm. Especially I just came back from New Orleans. That's kind of a walking town too, as far as like, and I can see the parallels. That's what I think I was telling you the other day. The thing I noticed when I was there is it reminded me in a weird way of Youngstown. You know, the people were very friendly, a lot of history there in both places. And then, and just in general, the place was nice to walk around. You know, it lent itself to a slow walk. You know, we did an event ourselves called the Walk Around Wick Park, and you're talking about like the infrastructures and stuff. Basically, taking a couple of kids out with someone from the Commonwealth, and she was pointing out the different sidewalks and whatnot, different things that the kids need to be paying attention to, because you know, they're trying to, like you say, planting those seeds for the next generation to take over where you guys live off.
Yeah. So if I can add, so talking about Wick Park, that's one of the sort of major projects of Cityscape. They collaborated with Rotary, Youngstown Rotary, which is one of the oldest clubs in the country, and I just joined this past spring also. And $350,000 was raised to restore the pavilion. So that just got completed over a 5-year process. One of the other things was putting gates to prevent people from driving at nighttime through the park, and then adding all the lights, and then there was a frisbee golf course that was put in there as well, and some other sidewalk improvements. But we're trying to raise money right now to turn the inner track into like rubberized, more proper like running trail. So it's almost like $1 million is going to get spent in Wick. So it's pretty big thing.
It sounds cool. I didn't even know that frisbee golf was that big to have a course there. But I know what I'm going to be doing next time I come.
Yeah.
Now, as far as volunteering, if someone wants to volunteer with you guys with Cityscape, how do they connect with you? What do they need to do?
So I think the best way is to just send us a message over our social media or call the office. You know, all of our information's on the website or on there as far as getting a hold of us. We don't necessarily have regular volunteer times, but we do have projects throughout the year going on, and especially like the Streetscape Day on June 1st. This year we had 700 people, and we planted flowers from Andrews Avenue all the way to the B&O, and then Phelps Stairwell up towards YSU, and then around Wick Park. So it's a pretty big deal now as far as that is concerned. But on Monday, for instance, I'm going to have a group from Villa Maria, which is a eco-spirituality kind of section of the Catholic Church that's over in Western PA, and they're having a group of people come over, and we're cleaning up a couple properties and spreading some more mulch and what have you. But I think there's definitely more opportunities in the future that will be coming up for different volunteer coordination. And I mean, there's always all kinds of hand-in-hand sort of organizations that are doing similar stuff too. So even if we don't have something going on, YNDC has something going on, you know, that are doing cleanups of lots and different things like that. So
yeah, that's similar to what Matt are trying to do with our small organization, doing a little bit of lot cleanup and just pitching in where you can. You know, you get in where you fit in and do what you can. As far as volunteers, before I leave that subject entirely, is there any particular skills that you're looking for, you know, as a volunteer? I mean, obviously anybody can come out and help and plant flowers and stuff like that, but are there any particular skill sets that you're looking for that you don't have that you want to attract as well?
You know, I think it's very accessible. You know, we don't do any like very technical type things. We have a couple people that are very knowledgeable that we have part-time on the staff that are helping maintain the flowers and stuff in downtown as far as weeding and watering and knowing when to happen. But I would say, you know, we try to beautify the city and it's really like just kind of get your elbows into the, you know, get your hands dirty, and that's all that's really required as far as skill sets are concerned. I mean, it's certainly helpful to know, you know, what different plants are what when you're doing weeding and what have you. But as far as that's concerned, you know, that doesn't really require a ton of knowledge or skill sets. But, you know, one of the other campaigns that got done is putting up like cigarette butt disposal containers on different signs through downtown to help encourage people to responsibly dispose of their cigarette butts, and then we actually send them to TerraCycle and they get recycled. But people are still littering, you know. I'd say every time you walk by a bottle or something, you know, just pick it up and help make the city cleaner.
Yeah, there's I saw some kind of documentary or something where they do something like that in Finland, or I might be making the country wrong, but there's an effort to actually go out jogging. They make it part of the exercise. You go out jogging with a little plastic bag, and so like you're saying, as you walk by or as you run by a piece of debris or trash or whatever, you're keeping your eye on the ground, just pick that stuff up as you go. And you know, the people that bring back the most trash, like you're making the place nicer as you go along. Before we go, I do want to ask you one off-brand question. This is a little palate cleanser. What's your favorite comfort food to make at home?
That's a tough one. Okay, so I would say, because I change stuff all the time and I like to cook really seasonally, it really depends on what time of year it is. And so like right now, like simple charcoal grilling, making stuff for tacos. My friends make really awesome tortillas, and we just, you know, fresh fruit and tomatoes and peppers, something on the grill. And that's like my favorite summer comfort food. But as the cool season comes around, I love a good hearty stew with a lot of spices, beans, veggies, and I like slow cooking type stuff, you know, a little bit of real tender meat in there, or we do a lot of vegan, vegetarian stuff as well. But it really just depends on, for me, comfort is super fresh and seasonal, year round, kind of just depends on what's going on.
That sounds good. Everything you just said, I love it. Well, I appreciate you coming on here with me. Like I said, this is the Youngstown Lifestyle Podcast. You're definitely embodying what this podcast was started for, to kind of connect with folks and see what's going on in the city. And thank you for doing what you're doing. It sounds like you have a lot of passion for it, and it's just great, man. Thanks.
Of course. Thank you for interviewing me today. Let me talk about different stuff that I got going on.
All right, well, I will talk to you very soon. Thank you.
Sounds good, Scott.